Hello, I'm Esther Githu-Ewart. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. Israel on Friday rejected as forced and grossly distorted South Africa's accusations that its military operation in Gaza is a state-led genocide. Morocco has won a vote to lead the United Nations Human Rights Council after a heated showdown with South Africa. We'll look at what it takes to get that position. And in our entertainment report, global hip-hop artist Dumisani Ndlovu and backup singer Troy Elder join Heather Maxwell live on set to perform some of his latest work. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. Israel on Friday is rejecting as forced and what they say are, quote, grossly distorted accusations brought by South Africa at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. Israel called on judges to dismiss South Africa's request to immediately halt its offensive, saying it would leave it defenseless. Israel's aerial and ground offensive has killed more than 23,000 people. Palestinians, according to Hamas-run Gaza health authorities. Israel's foreign ministry's legal advisor, Tal Becker, spoke in court.
The applicant has regrettably put before the court a profoundly distorted factual and legal picture. The entirety of its case hinges on a deliberately curated, decontextualized, and manipulative description of the reality of current hostilities. South Africa purports to come to this court in the lofty position of a guardian of the interest of humanity. But in delegitimizing Israel's 75-year existence in its opening presentation yesterday, that broad commitment to humanity rang hollow. And in its sweeping counterfactual description of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it seemed to erase both Jewish history and any Palestinian agency or responsibility. First, that if there have been acts that may be characterized as genocidal, then they have been perpetrated against Israel. If there is a concern about the obligations of states under the Genocide Convention, then it is in relation to their responsibilities to act against Hamas's proudly declared agenda of annihilation, which is not a secret and is not in doubt.
Israel often boycotts international tribunals and UN investigations, saying they are unfair and biased. But this time, Israeli leaders took the rare step on sending a high-level legal team to defend itself against South Africa's allegations. As Israel vehemently defends itself against South Africa's claims of genocide in Gaza, VOA's Paul Ndiho spoke to Yasmin Ahmed, the UK director at Human Rights Watch, for more perspective on the case.
Human Rights Watch thinks that this case is extremely important. It's important because the international community to date has been largely paralysed around the issue of the violence that Israel is committing in Gaza. We, as Human Rights Watch, have documented war crimes and other violations of international law, including collective punishment, the use of starvation as a method of war, and other apparent war crimes where Israel has attacked medical facilities and medical vehicles. It's an important moment, and it is not just any court, it's the apex court of the United Nations. And so we, as an organisation, welcome the opportunity for an independent court to hear allegations and for them to determine on an independent basis as to whether they have in fact been founded.
South Africa alleges that based on the evidence adduced before the court, based on the statements made by some public officials from Israel, amount to genocide. But there are a lot of people who say, on the Israeli side, who say that it's actually the reverse. This war was not started by Israel. It was actually started by Hamas on the other end. Could this be a case where Israel is really trying to defend itself?
The acts by Hamas, which were certainly war crimes and killed at least 1,200 Israelis, do not justify any crimes that Israel commits. It is possible, and the International Court of Justice has in fact found it in previous cases, in cases where there is an ongoing armed conflict, and in fact there may be legitimate rights of a warring party, as there is, to use armed force in the context of that conflict, that it is still possible for a party to commit genocide. And that is certainly what the court found in the Bosnia-Serbia case. And it also has imposed interim measures in the case of Ukraine and Russia. I think it's very important to note that neither the acts of Hamas, the war crimes committed by Hamas, or the fact that there is an ongoing armed conflict negate the possibility that genocide may in fact have been being committed by Israel.
I'm not a lawyer, but you're probably better off answering this question. What constitutes a genocide?
So genocide is there's a very, very high level of evidence that's required for the crime of genocide. And that is because genocide is not only about the acts that are committed, but is also about the intent. What South Africa is arguing in this case is that the evidence that they are presenting before the court suggests that both there is intent, and what they did was present a lengthy array of evidence, of statements by Israeli officials to demonstrate genocidal intent, as well as actions and statements by soldiers on the ground implementing those orders. And they also demonstrated that certain constituent acts of killing, of harm, and other such acts as displacement, attacking certain vital infrastructure for humanitarian purposes, in fact constitute, as they argue it, genocide.
That was Yasmin Ahmed, UK Director at Human Rights Watch. Morocco won a vote to lead the United Nations Human Rights Council after a heated showdown with South Africa, which said Rabat's human rights record made it unfit to preside over the body. And joining us now to discuss the issue is Ahmed Ben-Chemsi, Advocacy and Communications Director for Human Rights Watch, Middle East and North Africa. Hello, Mr. Ben-Chemsi.
Hi, Hester. Thank you for having me.
Now, Morocco has been accused of human rights violations internally and externally, especially in its treatment of Black African migrants. As a native of Morocco, what more can you share with us?
Well, when it comes to the treatment of migrants, there have been a lot of violations in the past. Many of those have been addressed, but it's still not over yet. And there's specifically this a very serious and tragic incident that happened last year in the border city of Melilla, where 23 at least migrants have been killed under the beating of Moroccan border patrolsmen, and also with Spaniards not letting them enter in Spain in circumstances that have yet to be investigated by the Moroccan government now, and even the bodies have not been given to their families. So this is a very tragic event that is still to be investigated properly.
That's interesting because, and I think that's why South Africa also raised this issue. The ambassador there at the UN saying Morocco's win is the antithesis of what the Council stands for. What can Morocco do differently to show respect for human rights?
Well, the Human Rights Council states that a country that is elected as its president should uphold the highest standard for respect of human rights. Now, when you look at the situation in Morocco, particularly freedom of speech, you realize there's a lot to be done to get to that threshold. Several Moroccan journalists are in jail. People are being jailed just for posting their opinions on social media that are critical of the authorities. The Moroccan authorities use very shifty tactics to accuse their opponents of things that are not at face value related to their freedom of speech, like sexual assault or embezzlement of money. But if you look at the procedures and the way they are deeply flawed, you realize that these these trials are very political in a sense. Not to mention that women's laws and the laws governing inheritance, for example, are still inherently biased against women, and several other provisions of Moroccan laws that are inherently, opposed to human rights as universally recognized. It is probably not the worst situation of human rights in the continent, but it's far from being the best one.
And you must have experienced a little bit of that back in Morocco. Ahmed, thank you very much for your insight into this. Ahmed Benchemsi is Advocacy and Communications Director for Human Rights Watch. The World Health Organization certified Cape Verde free of malaria on Friday, hailing it as a significant milestone in the fight against the disease. Cape Verde is now the third country after Mauritius and Algeria to eliminate the mosquito-borne disease. For more insight, VOA Health correspondent Lino Mudu spoke with Dr. Dorothy Achu, team lead for tropical and vector-borne diseases in the regional office for Africa.
The Cabo Verde just completed a strategy for elimination of malaria. So it takes, the determination to get to zero cases. And once a country adopts that kind of policy, it means they are ready to mobilize the resources that it takes in terms of scaling up the right set of interventions, in terms of strengthening the follow-up of cases, what we call surveillance. Surveillance is really tracking down all cases, making sure they are identified early and treated with very effective medication. But not only that, also looking at the vectors that transmit the parasite from one person to another, the mosquitoes. So there's been a lot of work in understanding the distribution of the mosquitoes, their behavior, and the choice of interventions. Cabo Verde has been involved in a lot of spraying, mass campaigns of spraying, and reducing the mosquito density, and also now getting to fight resistance and trying to get the right interventions to eliminate the malaria vectors. So they have reduced the vectors, the density of vectors, but most importantly, they have eliminated the parasites from the vectors. So you can have mosquitoes, but you no longer have the parasites because they are no longer circulating in the country.
That was Dr. Dorothy Achu, team lead for tropical and vector-borne diseases in the regional office for Africa. An estimated 130,000 people have descended on Las Vegas for Consumer Electronics Show that wraps up Friday. VOA's Tina Trin is in Las Vegas and she joins us now to tell us more. Tina, tell us what's happening at the world's largest tech event and what are some of the cool items you have seen in the past few days?
Well, it's the last day, as you said, Esther, and I think everybody is breathing a sigh of relief because it has been a lot of work, and people are slowly trickling in here for the last day, and it's more of the same, more of the cool big things that you're going to see in the coming years. Obviously, CES is all about the big, the bold, the flashy, the flying cars, the huge folding screen TVs, but there are some more practical everyday applications and interpretations of these technologies. And AI, of course, is playing a central role. We're seeing a lot of AI woven into everyday experiences like your email, where you can ask your email to compose an email to your boss. But it's also being used to solve larger problems like diversity in hiring, a lack of that, and being used by recruiters to scan potential candidate profiles and look for keywords. And then you're seeing things that really help blur the line even further between our physical worlds and our digital worlds. I saw a device that you slip onto your hand and your fingers that gives you the sense of touch in the metaverse. And so as our physical and digital worlds begin to merge, it's going to be harder and harder to tell the difference between the two. There are a lot of companies that are making items that give you these haptic feedback sensations to help you, that digital world, feel even more real than before. I also saw plenty of devices that are making the world more accessible, the digital world more accessible for the disabled population. A headset, for example, that can guide the blind down streets and roads using a set of cameras and haptic feedback to guide them, where a traditional walking stick or guide dog would be almost too much information and too costly. So there are really cool items here, and it's the last day to check them out.
Well, get some and bring them to the studio when you come back to Washington. Thank you so much, Tina, for wrapping that up for us. Tina Trin reporting live from the Computer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. The 2023 African Cup of Nations, also known as AFCON, kicks off Saturday in Ivory Coast. VOA's Mukbilia Barrow is in Abidjan, and he joins us now to tell us about the atmosphere and excitement prior to Saturday's match between Ivory Coast and Guinea-Bissau. Hello, Mukbil. Tell us everything you can see in Abidjan.
Hello, Esther. Hello, everybody back in Washington, D.C. I'm in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. The level of excitement in the city right now is unparalleled. We're having an extremely fun time in the city. All over, anytime you walk around, you see so much excitement happening. But yeah, I'm just excited to be a part of it. Tomorrow will be the kickoff of the tournament, starting off with Ivory Coast against Guinea-Bissau at 8 p.m. Prior to, there will be an opening ceremony of sorts. Yeah, and it's just going to be so much fun. At the moment, I am here. You can see right behind me. This is the CAF Media Center. This is where all the foreign journalists and journalists here are getting their accreditations. And they're going to have some little journalist tents that they're setting up over there. So teams will be able to come here, reset, refuel, and be able to get back out there and have a great time.
What is the security like in Abidjan, and what are you hearing from fans who are already gathering up, awaiting the match?
At the moment, Esther, it's difficult to tell. It does look like, there is a ton of security, even in the areas where the media centers are, their security detail right in front. So at the moment, it looks like it's as secure as can be. But once the chaos ensues tomorrow, it's going to be a completely different dynamic. So I'll be sure to report back to you guys what it looks like once we head over to the stadiums on Saturday and Sunday. It'll be, I think, a little bit more challenging when all the fans and everybody's going to be out there in the same places.
Mukbil, thank you very much for your reporting. We look forward to it. VOA's Mukbilia Barrow reporting live for us from Abidjan, Ivory Coast. Still to come, an iconic African MC joins us for a live performance. We'll be right back.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
In other news, Josephine Wright, who lived on South Carolina's Hilton Head Island and drew attention from American entertainers such as Tyler Perry and Snoop Dogg as she fought off developers in her final years, has died at 94, according to a publicist for her family. Wright came to embody the development pressures displacing residents of historic African-American communities. Overnight fighting in Sudan's capital Khartoum between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces killed 33 civilians, according to pro-democracy lawyers. Sudan has been gripped by nearly 9 months of conflict, pitting Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan against his former deputy paramilitary commander Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo. And Burundi says it has closed its border with Rwanda nearly 2 weeks after accusing its neighbor of supporting rebels who carried out a December attack on its soil, killing 20 people. It's time for Entertainment Report. And joining us now is Heather Maxwell, host of VOA's Music Time in Africa radio program. Hello, Heather.
Hello, Esther. Hello, everyone. We are fortunate here in Washington to have an iconic African MC living and working among us. And we're going to speak to him. We'll meet him and find out what is behind his name and why is he an icon. But first, let's watch. Zimbabwe is in the house.
Focused on the details, they say that's where the devil's at. Armageddon's where we're headed, I guess that we will settle that.
Dumisani Ndlovu is an MC emissary of global hip-hop.
Seen enough of this, and so it's time for a reaction.
He's an official music ambassador, a teacher at George Washington University, and one of the earliest pioneers of great African hip-hop to hit the United States. He's known in the hip-hop world as Dumi Wright.
All right, so Dumi, Troy, nice to have you here.
Hey, great to be here. It's a pleasure. It's a super honor to be back and talking to you all.
It's been a while.
Yes, indeed.
Dumi, you have the best name. Dumi Wright. I mean, I can't stop saying that.
Right?
Take us back to the moment when you found it.
So, I'm from the classic era, the golden era of hip hop, and you always had to have a cool, catchy name that's memorable. And I remember my earliest name, this is a secret, not too many people know this, Heather. My early name was not that great, it was Ice D Cool, because it was Ice-T and Ice Cube and all these people.
Right.
And I was like, I need something that's more personal and iconic. And of course, Dumisani is the full name.
Right.
So abbreviated as Dumi. And there's a song by Pebbles that came out in the 80s, and she sings, "Do me right, do me right." And I was like, that's it, that's it, that's the name, and it's been iconic ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, another question, how are you an icon as far as pioneers of African music go?
So myself and my brother, Akim, Funk Buddha, united as a group, and we were trying to come out, and what we wanted to do was bring a unique perspective from us growing up and discovering hip-hop in Africa. And so we formed a group called Zimbabwe Legit back in the early 90s and ended up through a super unlikely series of events being one of the first African hip-hop groups to actually record and release a record in the US and gain international recognition.
Wow.
So that record came out in 1992, the self-titled debut of Zimbabwe Legit.
Zimbabwe Legit.
And still here, still doing it.
Awesome. All right, so I understand you're going to perform for us. What are you going to sing? Rap?
So this song is kind of encompasses everything that I do, and it's called No Turning Back.
All right.
With soul on the vocals.
All right.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Uh-huh. How you feeling out there?
Turn me round.
Turn me round.
Turn me round.
Turn me round.
Keep on walking.
Keep walking.
Marching up to freedom land.
It's so apparent they want us to turn back. Never that, sever that. We only go straight ahead, never back. Can't provide no slack, cause then that would lead to regression. They say the road to hell is often paved with good intentions. Study your opponent, pay attention to how they attack. How should we react? Gotta stay united, keep intact, stronger. And you know that we last longer if we move as one. Read the signs between the lines and see what's really being done. How to make a slave, that plan is often duplicated. Fight amongst yourselves, you're just being manipulated. Maybe these conditions just ignition to get started. Impatient to complacent and lost lost focus on the target. Sometimes in the darkest night is when you rediscover. At our lowest point is when we really need each other. Keep using and abusing and there won't be nothing left. It's more than just success, it's a matter of life or death.
Turn me round.
Turn me round.
Turn me round.
Turn me round.
Turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody. Turn me round.
Turn me round.
I'm gonna keep on walking.
Keep walking.
Keep on talking.
Keep talking.
Marching up to freedom land.
Maybe you didn't choose this path and you were just selected. Can't wallow in your sorrows cause that would not be effective. Rejected foolish narratives and everything they're telling us subjective. We ain't buying it. Filtered what they're telling us. Tired of taking losses. Investigate all the forces of information. Plus we know exactly who their boss is. If it's not good for the goose then I don't want no propaganda. Crash the walls and come through force or pass the sledgehammer. We know where we're going so we won't be turned around. Cause you know if they don't they might just burn it to the ground. Step out of the shadows cause you know you can't remain anonymous. Today it's him, then tomorrow they might just come for all of us. Before you know it you find out you're standing on the brink. Got no time to think so we gotta survive on instinct. Keep eyes on the prize and not the skies that's right in front of you. Cause when the time comes we're gonna need every one of you.
Turn me round.
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 Turn me
Ain't
round.
gonna let nobody turn me round.
Turn me round.
I'm gonna keep on walking.
Keep walking.
Keep on talking.
Keep talking.
Marching up to freedom land.
Turn me round. Turn me round. Turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody. Peace. Do me right. Troy. Zimbabwe legit. And we're still here. Yeah.
Wow, that was amazing. Really awesome.
Thank you.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you.
So how long have you guys been working together? Because Troy, your voice is gorgeous. It adds a lot to already your amazing rap skills and your message.
So when did we get started, man? It's been a long time.
It's been 20 plus.
20 plus years.
Yeah.
So we met in DC on the U Street music scene at Bar None, I believe, the open mic set called The Movement years ago. And we connected and then started performing together. And it's just like it works so well together. Yeah. And he is like a quintessential professional star in his own right, you know?
Okay.
So it's been good.
All right. Have you been to Zimbabwe?
I have not, and I would love to, so.
That's got to happen.
On mission, right?
So we only have a few more seconds. Tell us about the ambassador. How are you an ambassador official?
So Global Hip Hop Ambassador, I took part in the Next Level program and did a residency in Thailand teaching hip hop in underserved areas. And I've been doing that work kind of informally for many years, collaborating with MCs, artists, and performers from all over the globe. And continue to do that officially and unofficially.
I see. Maybe you can do it again and you can bring Troy with you.
Indeed.
And you'll go to Zim and whoever knows where else.
Wherever we end up.
All right. Any last words to our audience about hip hop?
Just keep staying focused. Be true to who you are. That's the secret for how I've been able to maintain for so long. And DUMI Right. Look me up and see what we got going on.
Do me right. Dumi, Troy, thank you.
Thank you.
Esther, back to you.
Thank you so much, Heather. We needed that. Thank you, guys. Be sure to join Heather Maxwell's Entertainment Reports right here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.